The reality is, even as you do a lot in terms of security in today's world, there are challenges that can present themselves, especially when someone is putting themselves out there.
Him up front.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did what? Yeah, you're good. Okay.
You do a lot in terms of security.
Guys, the day that a single social media platform gets like a halfway decent CEO, not even a great one, not even a good one, just an okay CEO, is gonna be a big day. If a single social media platform could secure a CEO that people just kind of like, that they tolerate, that isn't constantly doing shit that not only harms the platform, but also makes it look like a joke, that motherfucker's gonna be treated like Nick Saban in Alabama. Gonna be a mythological figure. Ladies and gentlemen, you might want to super glue your socks onto your feet before you go any further into this video, because the information I'm about to disclose is gonna knock them right off. And by that, I mean it's actually not gonna surprise anybody, and if you've heard anything ever about the company we're talking about today, it's exactly what you'd expect. Get it? It's funny because I lied. Twitch doing Twitch things is a phrase that doesn't really need any explanation. I said this in my last video that I made about Twitch, and I think now it's even more relevant. I don't think Twitch has ever made a decision that was a good one. And when I say that, I mean like for anybody. For the streamers, for the employees, for the executives. Like it seems like the people who are in charge of making decisions over at Twitch are incapable of doing anything that will benefit anybody. And I think we can see that in full effect with how Twitch, and especially the CEO of Twitch, has handled this whole Emiru situation. Now at this point, there's a whole lot more that could be called the Emiru situation, and none of it is really appropriate to call a situation, but such as YouTube. But right now, I'm not talking about the Miskiff stuff, I'm talking about what happened at TwitchCon, where Emiru was assaulted due to a lack of security, and Twitch's response was pretty much to do and say nothing. If you're unfamiliar with all that happened, I will link a video in the top right corner that will kind of explain more of it. It's made by a pretty cool guy. But a quick rundown if you haven't heard of this, just so this all makes a bit more sense. Last week at TwitchCon, the streamer Emiru was assaulted after a man walked past the non-existent security at TwitchCon, grabbed her, and tried to kiss her. The only person that stepped in was her own personal security, nobody else, and the guy was allowed to walk out of TwitchCon with nothing being done to him. No police were involved at first, the security did nothing, and according to Emiru, it wasn't until her manager got involved that Twitch got the police involved. Also according to Emiru, Twitch's response at first, what they wanted to do about this guy is ban him from Twitch for 30 days. No, I'm not joking. One of their most prominent streamers gets assaulted, and what they want to do to that guy is not get the police involved, not press charges, not even give him a lifetime ban. Just give him the old 30-day vacation, and surely that'll be enough, right? Now, obviously, all of this injunction was received very poorly. For years, this kind of stuff has been a problem. Live events like this for streamers have always been sort of dangerous, and they've only been getting more dangerous as the years pass. So Twitch failing to hire adequate security at their biggest event of the year is not just a silly whoopsies mistake, it's negligence, and it's negligence committed at the cost of the safety of the streamers supporting the platform. Now, Twitch's initial response was bad enough, but I've already talked about that in that video I mentioned earlier. If you haven't seen that, again, basically they just kind of lied about everything. They said that he was removed from the premises, that they identified him, but there was videos of him just walking out of the event. Half of what they said in their official statement was literally just a straight up lie. And the Twitch theme of the month of releasing shitty official statements continues, with the most recent statement being released by the Twitch CEO himself, Dan Clancy, who is really the focus of today's video, but had to set the stage. Now, if you've never heard of Dan Clancy, he's not exactly the most well-received in the Twitch community. I think for a long time he's sort of just been tolerated, but over the last 6 months or so, the public's opinion on him has been declining pretty rapidly, I would say. And it's all sort of come to a head with how he's been handling everything that's been surrounding Emiru and this TwitchCon assault. His initial response to all this was bad. It was just straight up bad. It was super defensive, super deflective. It was this interview with Taylor Lorenz, and while we're not going to be watching the interview, some interesting quotes from the interview include, "The challenge we face is a challenge in today's society. It's not limited to Twitch. It extends throughout our society. I do think that when you're live streaming, in many ways, since you control your community and you can ban people, you can make it so that those people that you don't want engaging with you and participating with you aren't there. I think everyone identifies our tools in terms of trust and safety as the leaders in the industry about helping creators. And here's my personal favorite. Even as you do a lot in terms of security in today's world, there are challenges that can present themselves, especially when someone is putting themselves out there. So at best, this interview is just full of deflecty, this is not my fault language. And at worst, a lot of this just sounds like he's straight up blaming Emiru for this happening. Now, as bad as that interview seems, I feel like it gets even worse when you realize that that wasn't even Dan's immediate action. He didn't give that interview to the next day, which, like, fine, whatever. Pretty normal to take a day to figure out what you're going to say when something like this happens in your company. But taking some time to figure out exactly what you're going to say in your statement, and allegedly, and by allegedly I mean there's videos of it, going out to party that night after one of your biggest streamers is assaulted at your event are two different things. Yeah, so after Emiru was assaulted at Dan Clancy's company's biggest event of the year, instead of going back to the drawing board, trying to figure out what went wrong, what exactly allowed this to happen, it seems like Dan Clancy decided to go out and get a little wacky with it. Now, I've seen some people defend this by saying, like, well, what's he supposed to do that night? And I feel like that's a really silly question. As a CEO, your decisions go far past just making decisions as to what's going to bring in the best numbers for a company. You are the face of that company, especially to the employees. When a massive streamer is assaulted because the company as a whole failed to protect them, and you're seen partying the night it happened, that kind of signals to the entire company, this shit isn't actually that important, it's not that serious, don't worry about it. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to like catastrophize this situation, but this is how work cultures where stuff like this is not taken seriously are created. When the CEO is on a fucking dance floor the night one of his biggest creators is assaulted at an event where seemingly if his company had done more to protect the creators, this wouldn't have happened, that sends a pretty clear signal throughout the company. That is not something to be ignored. Also, the whole like, what's he supposed to do that night downplays that this is a man who went out and celebrated after his company had a massive failure. What is a CEO supposed to do in that situation right then and there in the moment? There's not a whole lot he can do, but there's a whole lot he shouldn't do, and party is on the top of that list. Anyways, all of that leads us to a couple of days ago when Dan Clancy released yet another official statement on Twitter. And while I guess it's probably the best one that we've gotten out of this entire thing, it's still bad. It's a little bit lengthy, but we're going to go through the entire thing because there's a lot to address here, so buckle up your big boy pants. First, I want to be upfront and take accountability for the security incident that occurred during Emiru's meet and greet. It shouldn't have happened, and we take that very seriously. We failed both in allowing it to occur and in our response following. We mismanaged our communications about the incident, and that includes the comment I made. I apologize to Emiru for all that took place. What are we doing moving forward? For meet and greets, we've begun a complete analysis of the incident that took place, as well as other issues that came to our attention after TwitchCon concluded. We're examining everything from how we do signups to the layout to increased security controls. We're also doing a comprehensive review of overall event safety and security, and we'll be making updates for future TwitchCons. While we won't be sharing all security updates for privacy and safety reasons, we will keep our community informed about changes that directly impact attendees. We have heard concerns about IRL streaming at TwitchCon. Twitch has evolved over the years, and IRL streaming is a part of Twitch, but we need to ensure that TwitchCon meets the needs of a variety of participants. We will be reviewing how we handle IRL streaming at TwitchCon, and we'll have more to share soon. Finally, we got clear feedback on accessibility across the event. We're reviewing with our team, including our production and venue staff, so that we're better equipped for future events. You put a lot of trust in us by attending TwitchCon, and we take our responsibility to keep you safe seriously. We know that TwitchCon means a lot to a lot of people, and it means a lot to us. Be on the lookout for more updates, and thanks for being a part of Twitch, Dan Clancy. So this is a statement that maybe, if this was the first thing that anybody from Twitch said, wouldn't be all that bad. But all of this is a much different tune than what was being sung originally. Now look, people are allowed to change their stances and their minds, that's not illegal, but you need to be honest about why that happens. Saying that you mismanaged your communications about the incident, and that somehow includes the comments you made in that interview, makes absolutely no sense. You're telling me that a miscommunication resulted in you saying stuff like this just happens, and this is a society issue, not a Twitch issue? That is bullshit. Those two things have no correlation whatsoever. Also, this response just reeks of this is what we're saying now, so people kind of calm down. Nothing is really going to be done. Because personally, what I feel like is necessary here is a real, no bullshit, genuine explanation as to why anybody involved in planning this event thought that these security measures were enough. Or more realistically, why they knowingly did not provide adequate security and why they thought that was okay. Because it's very easy to make a tweet saying it shouldn't have happened and we take that very seriously. It's a little bit harder to explain why you take it so seriously now when you didn't 48 hours before. Because obviously this shouldn't have happened, and anybody with a brain could have looked at how the security was laid out for this event and how it was being managed and told you, yeah, there's a risk something like this might happen. Obviously hindsight is 20/20. Sure, nobody could have known known this was going to happen. But again, hindsight is 2020. Shit like this has happened before, which is why so many people are upset about how security was handled in the first place. Like everybody said a million times, stuff like this happening to streamers is not new. It's not even kind of new. So it's really hard to take a company seriously saying that they take stuff like this seriously when they clearly didn't. You don't really get to be like, oh yeah, we take stuff like this really seriously, just, you know, after it's already happened. That's just a little bit disingenuous. Overall, I think this is one that Mr. Clancy is probably not going to come back from. I think any goodwill he had with the community that he hadn't already squashed by basically trying to sell the communal aspect of Twitch to the highest bidder is officially gone. It was pretty much already gone when it came to how creators saw him. This is just the nail in the coffin because now the average viewer of Twitch probably doesn't see him in the best light. Is that fair? I'd say so. Well guys, what are your thoughts? Like I said, that statement that Dan released, while like there's no context where it's good, it would have been a whole lot better if this guy wasn't like, yeah, well it's sort of Emiru's fault, before he got so much backlash that he had to take the blame. Which it is his blame, like it's not like he's having to take the blame, he should take it, but that's the only reason he's doing it is because of the backlash. It doesn't seem like this guy actually cares about what happened, and that's a really bad look. Not only is it a really bad look, that's just like a bad thing in general. I don't know what Twitch's next step needs to be, but I don't think people are gonna be happy with him in charge for much longer. So yeah.